Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 20th of September. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined by Jonny McFarlane and Joshua Barrie as we look back on yesterday's 1-1 draw with Motherwell at Ibrox on Flag Day. How are we doing, boys? Jonny?
Good, yeah. Are you reporting live from Siberia with that big coat on? What's that? What's that all about?
It's getting a bit chilly down here. Can't take chances. Joshua, how are we getting on?
Yeah, fine. A little bit more perspective looking back at the game now from yesterday, but it was a rather flat Sunday when it could have been a quite emphatic one from the first 45 minutes. But yeah, all good apart from that. It is also rather cold up here. The temperature has dropped. I noticed this morning, so we won't be far behind you with the coats.
Yeah, absolutely. Big hello as always to Billy. Jonny, looking out the window, what's it like in Cambuslang?
I'm up on a hill and beautiful overlooking Glasgow, and it's the weather's blue skies up here. I don't know.
Not where I am, but
I adjusted the heating. I adjusted the thermostat though the other day, so we finally got, the house has actually got radiators on and stuff like that. So perhaps. Wow. That's why I'm feeling absolutely fine and not noticing any kind of chill factor up here. But anyway.
Yeah. But
as exciting as all that.
More of this, please. Let's keep going.
Yeah, folk have tuned in not for a weather report, but for to talk about the football. So this gets stuck in. Joshua, you were there for us yesterday. We've got some comments coming in already saying flat and pedestrian, very disappointed. All started off so well when Fashion Sakala nodded Rangers in front, of course. They missed a hatful of chances, a lot of half chances, I felt, as well. But as the game wore on, it sort of just petered out, didn't it? And Motherwell, of course, got their goal through Kane Woolery, and that's how it ended up. A very disappointing afternoon, Joshua.
Yeah, and it had the potential to be so not flat and pedestrian, because for a lot of that game, that was, I think, the best Rangers have looked going forward. Certainly for the first 45 minutes, their XG total was the highest of the league season so far at 2.43, I think. And that obviously only accounts for chances. But as you say, there were so many half chances, so many penalty box entries that didn't materialise into anything. And this wasn't a game where, I seen on the Motherwell Twitter feed, one of their players was saying it was 1 point, it could have been 3, which was ridiculous, because that wasn't a game in which Motherwell held on and defended gallantly. Rangers completely dropped 2 points by themselves. So the frustration was really evident. I think the encouraging thing is you look at that front three, and with and without the ball, they were so aggressive and direct, and that's what Rangers have been missing altogether. Still not quite there. I think the goal they conceded is probably the poorest goal of the season, and it's another goal that comes from a switch of play. Midfielders running beyond the striker and then overloading the defence and the midfield not dropping back. So that sharpness was just so disappointing, as you say, because so much good work had been done till then. And at halftime, it was very optimistic. And I thought what Gerrard said was interesting, and that no one will remember that. And he called some of the middle to front play outstanding. And I thought the way that Rangers got into the Motherwell final third, they didn't play around them. It wasn't side to side and deep crosses. There was hardly any of that. It was through, it was quick, it was exploiting the space when Motherwell moved over. But no one will remember that. And that's the challenge of playing for Rangers. So frustrating ultimately, and I guess only a couple of weeks will tell if the good things from that performance will carry over into the next couple of weeks.
Steven Gerrard said afterwards, Jonny, about the front three, says that they're looking very sharp in training. It was an opportunity for Kemar Roofe, Fashion Sakala and Scott Wright to really make a mark yesterday. His goal aside, for Fashion Sakala, sort of tired in the second half, didn't he? A bit erratic with his decision making at times. What did you make of the front three? They have to be more clinical, don't they?
Yeah, listen, I agree with a lot of what Joshua said, but I felt it was very much a Jekyll and Hyde performance. I thought first half they were excellent. All that kind of attacking spark was back in their play. They were moving the ball at pace, as Joshua was saying. They were moving through the centre of the pitch, and Motherwell just couldn't live with it. It should have been 2-3, 4-0. Second half, though, complete opposite. Back to this kind of slow, paceless attacking play that looks just completely lacking in ideas. It was remarkable to watch. Motherwell completely came back into the game, and to be honest, throughout the game, Motherwell looked a little threatening because the defence did look ropey. Both Connor Goldson, Jack Simpson, and to some extent Borna Barisic didn't exactly cover themselves in glory throughout the game. in terms of the front three, I thought based on that first 45, they looked terrific. But based on the second half, you probably wanted to change it again. So it left me quite confused as to how you sort of assess the performance. I mean, what you can say is a 1-1 draw with Motherwell is just not good enough for Glasgow Rangers at home. Obviously, they're still top of the league. You know, Celtic are having a bit of a nightmare, so that they're 4 points behind. So you have to say you would always take that. But there's just a malaise about this team, Derek. There's just no doubt in it. You know, we like to pride ourselves on being journalistic and balanced in how we assess Rangers. We don't stick the boot in. We don't go OTT. Throughout the early point of the season against Dundee United and things like that, we were very calm, and we were imploring people, you know, just relax on this. They'll come good. But we're now quite deep into September. We're 20th of September, and a lot of the problems that we've seen from the first game of this season, from the first European games, are still there. And primarily, it's defensive frailties and a lack of cohesion middle to front in terms of how Rangers are attacking. Although there was a lot of cohesion in that first half, to be fair. And I think it's a problem. And there's a lot of people saying, "Oh no, it'll come good. Don't worry. We've had lots of disruption to the pre-season, and they'll get there." I don't think they're looking like they're going to get there. I've got to be honest. And I think what now they should be thinking about is what Steven Gerrard said right at the very start, before a ball had been kicked. He said, teams are going to start figuring us out. We played the same way for 3 years, and we need to have new ways of beating teams. I think Rangers should go to 3-4-3. I think it's time for another formation. So they've got the 4-2-3-1. They've got the 4-3-2-1. They've got the 4-3-3. I think they need something to say, we're going to go to a different shape and give you a completely new challenge here. And I think that's the way you get Tavernier and Patterson in the team. And I think it gives you, just like, and listen, here's the thing, right? 9 in a row that Celtic were awarded, yeah? They were awarded because of the COVID situation. But they took a massive jump ahead of Rangers after Christmas. They went away to Dubai, they regrouped. People forget what the key thing in that was. Neil Lennon changed to a 3 at the back. He went 3-5-2 and got Edward and Griffiths at the time up front. Now, why am I talking about Celtic, you may ask on a Rangers podcast? The thing is, Celtic were in bad shape. They changed their formation. By the time the Scottish League realised what was going on and how to stop it, Celtic were points clear, and 10 points clear or whatever. Because that tactical change bamboozled everyone. Because people were like, well, we don't know how to deal with this. There's all new levels of attack and threat in front of us. And I think Rangers need to do something like that. And if they do something like that and it works, then I think they'll storm this league, because Celtic don't look like a team that can go 5 or 6 games without having a nightmare.
Yeah.
And they're still in the very early stages of their rebuild. So yeah, I think that's something that needs to be looked at. I don't know what Joshua thinks or you think, Derek.
Yeah, I think we touched on this before. They need to find a way to get Patterson in the team. It's no good having him sitting on the bench. He's too good for that. And Rangers have been just lacklustre for me. There's so many questions coming in, guys. Robin McFarlane says, do you agree that in order to break teams down better, the tempo of play is really important? Too often we're taking too long to switch play. For example, Aribo taking too many touches. Joshua, you've seen it at first hand. For me, me and Jonny watching it on the television, it looked rather pedestrian at times, and it looked easy to defend against. What did you think? And Rangers taking too many touches? Are they not incisive enough?
Yeah, probably. I mean, there was so many times in and around the box that they didn't make the most of it. And Aribo is just, in terms of players trying to get the ball off him, he's the best in the league, because you always think he's going to go around you, but he cuts back inside, but wasn't incisive enough. I mean, in terms of pace, I agree with Jonny in that you obviously can keep the principles of what Rangers want to do, and say Rangers want to always play the same way in Europe in that mid block. Wolves do it. I've done it, or did it really successfully under Nuno for a number of seasons with a 3 at the back, and I think one of the ways you do inflict a little bit more pace into that attack is by allowing Nathan Patterson to run at people, keeping James Tavernier on crossing positions, which he could do. I think especially with the way that I also think it's not always so much how Rangers attack teams, although it comes into that, but it's the way that Rangers set up is teams always have a clear idea of how to attack them. And I think just having the option to change that, because I don't think that goal yesterday happens if you've got a little bit more cover in there, but also if you're just set up differently so that teams can't go, okay, we know regardless of how the game goes, Rangers will defend like this. If we're able to switch play, then we'll be able to get the better of them and create space in midfield. And if we just take that one chance, that'll maybe allow us to get back into the game. And I also think that if you play that 3-4-3, you can retain your attacking midfield three, but also maybe then it gives Davies a little bit more of a rest. But it's just variation. It's just different. It's not as if this team cannot play that formation. And I'm sure Stephen Gerrard spoke about it in pre-season. We've not really seen much, any evidence yet that is going to happen, but there does need to be some sort of variation because it becomes too predictable. When Rangers play that way and they're fast, and I thought in that first half they were really good and they moved it, you could see why they're so insistent on keeping their attackers central, because central overloads are so effective. But then the second half, the pace goes out of the game, and I just thought I thought the subs were actually quite poor. I thought like Arfield, for example, when he came on, has done that so many times, but just didn't look really sharp. There just needs to be a bit of variation and something a little bit different. So I'm in agreement with Jonny. And Aribo is 25. He's coming into his peak years, and I think needs to, if he wants to go to the next top level, he needs to put more numbers into his game, because it's the argument we have about Morelos is there a reality that teams look at his finishing and think that's too sporadic. Aribo can have all the talent in the world, but I think he just needs to, which he had a lot towards the end of last season, thinking of the goals against Dundee United and Ross County. He just needs to be that a little bit more incisive in the box. And Stephen Gerrard actually pulled him over. I noticed just as the teams went out, called him back over and spoke to him just after the halftime whistle. And Aribo was, I thought, really good for that 10 minutes in terms of getting into the box and creating half chances, but just that final ball wasn't quite there. And that's the frustrating thing. And that's ultimately one of the main reasons that you drop points.
Yeah. Can I just come in on that? When Joshua said I want to sort of have a word about the actual goal itself, for me, wasn't really about the structure of the midfield. Because yes, if there was someone sitting in the holding role, it would have helped. But to me, it's just one of those dead simple goals. If Simpson is further across when the ball first starts out on Rangers' right hand side, and Barisic is further across, the goal doesn't happen. There's a huge gap, as illustrated on any punditry coverage of the game picked it out. Goldson's far too far across if Simpson's over there. Now, but Goldson's in the right position. Simpson needs to cut in much more, and Barisic needs to cut in more. And Barisic is very, very, very slow to react and completely falls asleep. Simpson sells himself. I don't know what he's doing. That is terrible defending. It's like a statue allowing a player to run around him when he should jockey him back. And there's so many mistakes in that goal. And it's symptomatic of Rangers defending this season with sloppy play, which we didn't see last year.
But that goal, surely the defence needs to deal better with it. But if you look at the space from the switch and the space that Mark O'Hara's in, that goal doesn't happen. It's not necessarily, I think, if a player's sitting, but the structure of the team means that obviously the midfield can sometimes become a little bit stretched. And then for me, Davies does need to go back with it. And a lot of the goals you've seen this season, the Rangers pay the price for when a third man run comes from the opposition or a run off the back, and then the defence can't cope with going 2-on-2, which is really what happened yesterday. And I thought Goldson actually did well to come back in and get across. Barisic was ball watching.
Yeah,
but Davies can also make sure the team aren't 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 by just dropping a little bit and offering that little bit more of support. And again, that's just that little bit of variation. Sometimes the ability for, you remember Davies's tackle in the 1-0 Old Firm win against Edouard. Obviously that's an isolated situation, but it's just these little things that I think are missing. And for me, that goal, Jack Simpson, I think looks like he's concerned about getting nutmegged, which is why he stands, almost statuesque. But also for me, Davies needs to drop in and just create a little bit of numerical superiority, But Barisic as well was just completely ball watching.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't think he didn't throw himself in front of the shot, which was a frustrating thing. He kind of fell in front of it, which was annoying.
All that's correct. And listen, I bow down to your superior knowledge of team structure and stuff like that. But my point is just this: that if Simpson and Barisic are not asleep and don't do stupid things, it's not a goal. So what you're saying is correct in an ideal world, but just basics, that neither of them do that. And listen, we're getting to a stage with Jack Simpson where I've not seen him have a good game for Rangers.
Listen, is he better than Edmondson?
I don't think so.
This is my issue. Is he better than him?
So that's the thing, because he spoke glowingly about him, but I don't know. He also looked sketchy. Goldson and McGregor bailed him out when Tony Watt got a run on him in the first half, but I don't know. The thing is, I agree, Derek, but you have to imagine that Gerrard thinks he is to move Edmondson out, to move Katic out on loan, but it doesn't look so far that he's whether it's the high line, whether it's the how aggressive Rangers are in defence, whether it's when they go 2-on-2. I also thought he did okay in a few duels in the first half, but it was the goals that will not make good watching back for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, but he's still inexperienced as a professional footballer. But to learn your trade at Rangers, you're in the spotlight, and any sort of mistake is magnified. I wanted to touch on another thing. A few points mentioning Stephen Davis. Billy says, "Are we asking too much of Davis?" Jonny, you had John Lundstram in your predicted lineups, and there was an interesting comment from Steven Gerrard just prior to the game on Lundstram, where he says he thought his performance on Thursday was very strong, and he said, "I watched the game back just to confirm that the noise from the outside on that is complete nonsense. I need the fans to stay with me on that one." Interesting point. He's obviously upset at some of the criticism coming John Lundstram's way. He was an unused substitute yesterday. Stephen Davis playing again. What do we make of that?
Well, first of all, I'm glad we're not on the end of Stephen Gerrard's ire, because we were very, very positive about how Lundstram played. And to be honest, I was a bit shocked by those comments because I didn't read criticism of Lundstram. And watching the game, I found it quite hard to see how there could have been. He was clearly the best in the midfield three. And if people were having a pop at someone in there, I was surprised that anyone was having a pop at him. I don't know if maybe there was some fans on Twitter having a go or where that came from, but I didn't. Maybe someone in the media said something about Lundstram. I personally didn't see it, so no. I thought it was strange that Gerrard came out with that. But to come out with that and then sort of drop him for the game was an interesting one. Now, I suspect it's because Lundstram suits a certain type of game, and possibly going up against the Motherwell low block is not where he's going to be at his best. And if Gerrard thinks he's been on the receiving end of some tough criticism, then he probably, even though he's aware that he did play well and he has been improving in his performances, probably doesn't want to leave him open for more criticism. I see Hugh is saying there, who's a regular watcher and listener, is saying Lundstram was getting pelters on social media. I just didn't see that. So I think it's
it has done prior to Thursday night, and I think some supporters were quite happy with substitute cameos, but prior to that, it was sort of targeted. People weren't too impressed, but certainly from Thursday night, I don't think he was getting pelters. I thought he was okay. I thought he was pretty decent.
Well, Derek, he must have been, because Gerrard said that he went back and watched the game a second time. So it must be specific to that game. But as I say, I thought it was good. I think it's quite clear with John Lundstram at the moment that he's going to be suited to certain games. I don't think he's going to be the guy who plays 55 games a season or 60 games a season, like a James Tavernier type for Rangers. I think he's going to be used for certain situations. And we're seeing that more and more at this stage of the season already.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent stuff. I think that'll do us there. Lads, remember to subscribe to the Rangers Review for just £2.99 a month and support top quality journalism covering the club you love. We've got some fantastic articles on there from the game yesterday and lots more to come, of course, as well. Keep your eyes peeled to our Twitter and Facebook accounts, and we'll be back tomorrow. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Monday.